Yeah, well, the average dog is a better person than the average person.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you. I lived with a very old and wise German Shepherd that was a hellion when she was young, but now she's laid back and tolerant. Subject to this.
Yeah.
Basically saying that they strive to deal with things in terms of objectivity, and I said objectivity is impossible. Best we can do. Because anything it is that we perceive is subjective. It's ourself.
Yeah.
It's ourself. It's ourself. It's our self-observing.
Yeah, but we determine if it's objective or not.
Who?
The observer.
No, the observer can only determine what it is they're looking at. They can't determine whether or not it's objective. I feel like the closest we can get to objectivity is a very basic objectivity would be triangulating and getting a number of different perspectives on an object or area of interest or a subject.
Well, you're right on. In philosophy, the objective is in the domain of language. It's a shared experience and described with a shared language. The subjective is private experience, and we struggle to communicate that to people who've not had that experience or don't have it.
Yeah, yeah. But she disagreed with me on the fact that I feel that basically all it is that we can perceive is subjective, even when we call it objective. And the most that we can do is change our point of view, our position, or our perspective on a situation. And I also said that changing our position, perspective, or situation on a situation is going to change what it is that we see of the object, or what it is that we determine is the truth or substance of what we're observing.
Well, I think objectivity would apply to something like this person weighs 140 pounds, and subjectivity would be something like this person is fat.
Oh, okay, I see you different. I see.
Yeah. So one is a judgment that's based on your...
There are objective facts, and basically the objective facts are going to be either logical or mathematical.
Yeah, in the past, the world consisted of facts. The whole total collection of facts was the world. And now it's sort of the opposite. The world is all that is factual. It's been turned around.
Explain that to me a little bit. That's an interesting idea.
Well, in the 1940s and maybe 20s, there was a school of thought that all thought is symbolic representation, and it's all about logic and that kind of thing. And then the head of that group said the world is all that is the case. In other words, all true statements is what the world is. But in recent times, with quantum physics and stuff, they say that the observation of the world makes it what it is, makes it something other than just potential. And so it's a participatory universe, so the observer is affected by the universe being observed by the observer, and the universe is also observing the individual. So they participate in each other's reality.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'd say for me that's an axiomatic truth.
Yeah, I've had that experience where you're out, say, at night on a clear night, and you see a huge amount of stars, the Milky Way galaxy, and your first experience may be, I am looking at the stars. If you stay with that long enough, you feel like the stars are looking at you.
And they do.
Yeah. And so I think that's the way the universe is. It's a kind of network of consciousness where everything is looking at everything else.
Yeah, sort of like the neurons in our brain and the serotonin reuptake inhibitors being able to sustain the back and forth involvement of serotonin.
I think that's how the mechanism works in our body, yeah, in our
Interactive.
In our physicality, yeah. But there's a emergent property of all those neurons, which is our thoughts, which are the total global patterns of all that activity. Sort of like when you're watching a TV program, say a Shakespeare play, and you're wondering why Hamlet killed his uncle. That kind of thought is at a higher level than the pixels on the screen and the diodes in the TV. You can analyze the TV, but not find that answer there, you know.
Yeah. The medium is not necessarily the message.
Yeah, the message is transported by the medium.
That's right. Medium.
And sometimes imperfectly. You have noise and that kind of thing.
Yeah, back in the 60s and 70s, that expression, the medium as a message, was sort of like a rather obtuse, sarcastic remark.
Yeah, and I think I've come up with the God algorithm.
What's that?
Well, and a lot of machine learning is about goodness of fit. You create a model that tries to fit reality and that has the same behavior as what you're modeling. But I'm using an algorithm which uses entropy as the features in the model, and entropy is a measure of uncertainty. So goodness of determination would be GOD, that would be the algorithm. And it has to do with how well a model fits reality given the uncertainty of its features. It's kind of abstract, but the practical...
I sort of get it, but I would say that even calling it in a state of entropy implies that it's static or caught in a moment or an instant of observation. And basically, everything I see everything in the universe as basically being dynamic, and you're talking about a snapshot rather than the movie.
Well, probability is about frequencies, about how frequent things happen in various categories. So it is dynamic in that sense.
Yeah.
You're counting the occurrences of an event against some criteria, like heads or tails, blue or green, or whatever it is. And so it's a snapshot of a dynamic activity.
Yeah. So I get what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. The reason it's a snapshot is you need discrete functions in order to describe it at some point in time.
Yes, it's a tool. It's a resource.
Right. Yeah.
And if we take enough.
Well, I've looked everywhere. I've searched the mathematical literature for using entropy features in linear regression. I can't find it anywhere. I think I've actually created something.
Tell me about it, Tim. Tell me about it. I won't steal your idea. I'd love to savor it.
Well, the way this machine learning thing works, you want to predict one thing based on features of something. Like you want to predict the price of a house would sell for based on how many bedrooms, bathrooms, square foot. All those are features.
Snapshot.
Yeah. And so what I've done is said perhaps one of the features is entropy. The entropy of bedrooms, the entropy of the square footage, and so on, or how uncertain we are about those things. And when I add that to the model, I get better predictions. I get much more accurate results.
It seems like you would, because you're actually taking more snapshots, and that gets back to the thing that I said, that we can achieve something nearing objectivity by looking at something from a number of different points of view. All the points of view change the truth of what it is that we're observing, but it doesn't necessarily deny the reality of the truth of another position.
Yeah, well, observation itself actually changes what's being observed, you know?
Yeah.
And what's being observed is observing us at the same time. So it's mutual self-determination through observation.
Well, as my roommate says, my guest says, it's always about yourself. And I'll say, that's the way my paintings are. They change depending on the angle of perception. Because of the metallic and iridescent colors. Colors will appear and disappear and merge and change.
What did you
Tell me a little bit about the usefulness of fractal.
Well, certain things that occur in the world have fractal characteristics. For example, the access patterns of a disk drive in the computer system is self-similar at different scales of measurement, different time measurements.
Yeah.
It's also true with radio waves and that are modulated for AM, FM radio. Now, if you break down those frequencies into sub-frequencies, you find the same patterns at different levels of scale.
The universe in a grain of sand, eternity in an hour.
So when you're playing a computer game, you have a landscape of trees and shorelines and ocean. All that's done with fractal mathematics.
Really?
Yeah. That's how you create a jagged, uneven shoreline, is you use a fractal pattern. So it has applications that are useful. As above, so below. That's the beginning of fractal right there.
Yeah, as above, so below. As above, so below.
Yeah.
The universe in a grain of sand, eternity in an hour.
Yeah, both have the same structure at different scales.
Okay.
That's part of the beautiful part of mathematics that I like, you know.
Yeah, I'm jealous of that actually because of your facility with math. Because I would enjoy being more facile in being not being a scholar but a pig.
Well, I think it has to do with opportunity to solve problems that require that kind of tool. You know, if you're solving the kind of problems I'm dealing with every day, then you would have expertise in those kind of tools. If you're painting, you have a different set of tools and different discipline than someone like a mathematician.
Yeah.
And they probably envy you. Yeah, I think when you're painting, you determine what goes on the canvas and how much and what color, but the canvas talks back to you and tells you what it needs.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because the only deterministic things in my paintings are choosing the colors. Because the involvement of the event is inspiration rather than imagination. It just happens.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's what happened with me with this algorithm. It told me what it needed.
When we really get into the opportunity to be open to inspiration, that's the way it happens.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because when we are inspired, it's in spirit. The spirit gets in us.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when we encourage, we put our courage into someone else. We encourage them. We encourage them.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it. I got Uranus in conjunct my sun to the degree, and it's a retrograde Uranus in the 10th house. And it's within a wide orb of conjunction with my north node.
Well, do you think some people see you as erratic and unpredictable?
Oh yeah, I am one of the town's eccentrics, but people like me here.
Well, the very first binary system that was used for decision making was the I Ching.
I'll agree.
Solid and broken lines, and then they had a dynamic element of the moving line.
I'll agree. I never thought of that, but that's right on.
Yeah, it's all binary, and then it's grouped in threes to represent the state of change between on and off, and then grouped in two sets of threes to represent states of the universe.
Solid liquid liquid, and gases. The Trinity.
Cardinal, mutable, and fixed.
Yeah, I've used that concept of the tertiary elements in helping people understand the Trinity, because some people can't deal with the concept of Father, Son, and Holy Ghost being the same thing. And I tell them it's like water, solid, liquid, and gas. They're all water.
I had a theologian use the lampshade theology. He said, imagine a lampshade and it has 3 holes in it, different sizes, but the same light comes through.
Yeah, that'll work too.
Well, I don't know. We're all tossed about on the waves of probability.
Isn't that true? Isn't that true?
Yeah.
And basically what it is that I use from my Handbook of Dealing with Fools, my rendition of the Book of Proverbs.
Mm-hmm.
As we think and as we say is how unfolds the coming day.
Well, that's very existential.
That's very what?
Existential. You're responsible for your existence.
Absolutely, we are. That's magical thinking. That's part of the way it is that I deal with the people that I coach that are dealing with their disability. That it's really important for them to realize they become what they think they are.
Yeah.
And that the world around them becomes what they describe it as, because that's what it is that they end up seeing.
Well, in my 20s, the popular thing was discovering yourself, and everyone had to discover themselves. But then I realized later it's all about creating yourself.
Absolutely. That's to me, that's axiomatic, because when I deal with people as clients for my readings, I impart the fact that self-discovery is really a matter of realizing that we create ourselves as a result of how it is that we describe ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. That certain people are just born to lead, and they should be in charge.
I basically don't disagree with that, but I feel as though that it should be a facilitating a mutuality that allows people to fulfill themselves according to their level of capability.
Yeah, that's very good neo-Marxist thinking. From each
according to their ability, and to each according to their needs.
Yeah.
and on a practical level, working with my clients, some people are only capable of aspiring to leave the hospital, sit on the front porch of an assisted living facility, smoke cigarettes, and watch the world go by. And I was not critical of that, because at least that was a tangible goal.
Yeah, I've done that. I moved on.
Yeah. After 6 years, I went to work in the hospital, and the little over 2 years that I worked in the hospital, I was a somewhat antithetical element in the hospital, because the staff there, doctors and on down, they basically focused on disabilities, and I was focusing on the cultivation of strengths and abilities, because my basic approach to things was, don't battle the darkness, just increase the light.
Yeah, that's psychology. Yeah.
And it created something of a impasse with me and the staff.
Well, yeah, because they're maintenance-oriented, and you were transformative.
Absolutely, and it worked, too, because I had a number of people who told me I'd change their life.
Yeah.
And basically teaching them to be cognitive rather than reactive. Telling them things like, if you feel like you're losing your temper, walk away. Go take a shower. Taking a shower will change your brain chemistry and help you get rid of the adrenaline. And you can come back a new person with a fresh point of view.
Well, that's a good idea. Sounds like cognitive behavioral therapy.
It is.
Oh, okay.
But it's also modern creative visualization and actualization and the law of attraction.
Yeah.
Modern pop psychology and modern metaphysics deal with the reality of the law of attraction. And basically that's the context of we are what we describe ourselves as, and our world is what we say that we want.
Yeah, I think the problem of post-traumatic stress disorder, especially in military, has about moral injury, that they're required to do terrible things to other people that they know is wrong and evil, but they have to do it, like kill people. And that causes that kind of trauma. It's a moral injury to their selfhood, to who they are.
I agree, Paul. And that's basically what it is I continue to do. Let myself be what other people need.
Yeah.
That's how I get along and fit in around here. I don't try and convince people to understand me. I make an effort to be of value to them.
Mhm. Well, that's one survival strategy when dealing with predators.
Yes, it is. It is. It's right out of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning.
Yep, that's right. Logotherapy.
Yep. That was a very significant book I read when I was I think I was a freshman in college when it came out. Wasn't that about the time it came out?
Yeah, that Rollo May, Love and Will, same thing.
Well, Man's Search for Meaning had more of a impact on me because it was so gripping. Him talking about how he survived in the death camp.
Right. Yeah, I read it. I was probably 19 when I read it.
So was I, probably 18 or 19, something like that, because I read it. I think I read it before my episode or right after, one or the other. But it was right along in there because it had a great impact on me regarding be what they want you to be. Put up a good front. If you don't know what you're doing, act like you do.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. How I got along professionally as a troubleshooter in the robotics field. Was always acted like I knew what I was doing. But a lot of times I ended up in the bathroom, sitting in the stall and praying for the good Lord to give me a sign and some direction on what it is I needed to do to solve the problem.
I had a similar experience with computers. When I started out, I felt terrified and overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I would just pretend to be calm and know what I was doing.
I was really lucky because in over a decade of working as a troubleshooter, I never left a machine not working. And every time I did it, it was in basically less than a work day. And I only had one machine that took me 3 days to figure out and fix.
Yeah. Well, they've gotten simple. The integrated circuits, you just swap out a card and it works.
Well, typically, the problem was not the controller. They would blame the problem on the controller.
Yeah.
Typically, the problem would be something electromechanical or mechanical about the machine.
Yeah.
And they always blame the controller.
Well, I've got. I was running a very long program when you called. It has to be 200 gigabytes, but it should be finished now. I need to go.